You are in for a treat today. A human performance specialist, a sleep expert, but all around pretty dope dude. Todd Anderson joins us today on the Earn It All podcast. How are you doing? My name is Rob Hunter. I can't wait to learn today along with you. Todd, thanks for being here, first and foremost. First thing I noticed on your website, we have something in common, Earn It All. The word earned appears very prominently right at the beginning of your website. So what does earning something mean to you?
Yeah, I guess that word has been part of my life since the beginning. Maybe not by choice, right? Like, I don't know if everybody wants to have to earn everything, but I think it's one of the best mindsets to have. I guess to me it means, just the mindset that things must be earned, right? I think in this world, this day and age, like there's a lack of gratitude for sure. I think people don't understand how good they often have it. And I think that a lot of that comes from really not earning some of the things or feeling like they're entitled to certain things. And when you really earn something and you approach every day, like you need to earn your place and earn your place at the table, earn the jersey. That's how we used to talk about it. When you have that mentality, one, you're extremely grateful. And two, I think you're able to scratch and claw and kind of stack wins. And cumulatively over time, you're going to outpace most people. So I think it's more of a mindset than, an action.
I love earned and the jersey mentality. Would you say that you earn the jersey?
Earn the jersey, yeah.
Because you walked on to Michigan State University, one of the premier football programs in the country. Yeah. And I know you talk a lot of trash towards Michigan fans, Definitely. Even though they're the national champs this year.
Yeah, I mean, they'll definitely be an asterisk. So whatever makes you feel better about that,
I love it. But tell me about that feeling you had. So you play high school football. You're a fullback. You decide, you know what? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try to get on Michigan State's team, even though I wasn't offered a scholarship.
Yeah.
Walk me through the process of the work that you did. And then tell me about that triumph, that reward, that earning feeling you had when you're like, dude, I got the jersey.
Yeah. It was a long road. Just even to get the I would say lucky, but my wife would tell me to stop speaking that way. But I had a lot of things fall in place even to get the opportunity to go there. Like we were doing summer 7-on-7. I was probably going to go to a Division III school. No offers, not even Division II offer. Summer 7-on-7 against the biggest high school in my area. And we happened to have no tight ends show up. I didn't play tight end. I played linebacker and an offensive line. I went to a really small school. I jumped in at tight end and made a couple one-handed catches and, really kind of showed out. Yeah, definitely. It was a great day when, kind of showed my athleticism that I've been working on. And their coach happened to see me, just one-off chance. Well, fast forward, Michigan State was looking for some walk-on spots, come that spring, and he went to that coach because it's the biggest school in Michigan. They usually have some good athletes, and the coach told him, like, if you talk to anybody, go talk to Todd Anderson at Napoleon High School, which, the chances on that one day our tight ends didn't show up, and I happened to jump in there, which I never play that position, and he happened to see me. It's such a rare chance that even happened, and then all of a sudden, Michigan State's coach shows up at our high school, and my jaw dropped. When I got called down to the office, like I saw his shirt and it had the Michigan State helmet on it, and I was like, must just be a fan, someone from a different. I didn't know. That was the last thing in my head, and he started talking about preferred walk-on spots and potential to come to camp, and I couldn't even hear what he was saying because this is not real. This isn't a real thing. This is like a
candid camera.
If it was now with TikTok and all the pranks, I'd be like, this is definitely a joke, like looking around. But no, it was real, and I kind of went back to class after that, and I was just like, someone asked me what was wrong, and I was like, Michigan State's offensive coordinator just walked into our school to talk to me, and it was wild. So that was crazy, but I got there, and then I quickly realized why I was a walk-on and why I didn't have any offers and why there's a big difference between a Division I 5-star recruit and somebody that wasn't getting recruited because, on paper, I probably looked like I should be there. I was strong. I was a big kid in high school, but just the talent level and knowing the game and even just, from a social perspective, it flipped my world upside down. And so the fourth day, I called my mom. My mom's here. The people are watching. But Yeah. And the fourth day of camp, I mean, I called and I wanted to quit. I mean, it was the hardest thing, just physically, mentally, everything. And, you know, we started thinking about getting transcripts around, transfer to a Division III school. Like, I really didn't think it was going to work out for a million different reasons. But I think there's something to be said about just, like, showing up every day. And Coach Antonio, my coach at Michigan State, would always say, like, sometimes you're going to be the storm and sometimes you have to weather the storm, which is true. I think that, you know, in life, you're never going to always have that mentality of, like, attacking the day and, you know, going after every opportunity. Sometimes you do have to weather a storm. And it's kind of like bracing and buckling down and getting through things. And that's still, like you said, that's still earning the jersey. It's just, you know, you're on offense sometimes, you're on defense sometimes. And I was on defense for about the first year. But I, you know, was able to overcome it. And when you show up every day, football, life, whatever it is, when you show up every day, you're around people that are better than you. You know, little by little, you chip away and you adapt and you become and you know, absorb those traits and those talents and those that the mindset of people that are better than you. And eventually, you're just one of those people. All of a sudden, you know, you're looking around and you're like, I can do this. So after about a year, you know, I really firmly believed that I could play. Going from the fourth day where I thought I'm never going to step on the field here, to after a year, you know, okay, I can do this. And I worked, I mean, man, people always ask me, you know, would you go back and do it all over again? And it's like, I can't even imagine doing the amount of work it took. But at the same time, it was the most fulfilling thing I could ever imagine. But it like, the highs are high.
Yeah. But
you earn every second of it, right? Like, you're not getting these amazing things, these amazing highs, without the work. You work so hard that if that high wasn't that high, nobody would do it.
Exactly.
Right? Like, people see, you know, winning a game on Saturday night on a Hail Mary. You know, we beat Wisconsin in the last second. People see that. They don't see the alarm going off at 4:45 in the morning, you know.
With a full class
right,
load.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Especially back then, they've even changed the rules and things. It's a little bit easier, a little bit more, you know, advantageous
less
for the
tackling
athletes.
in practice.
Yeah. They've definitely, you know, they're smarter. There's more data, which is great, but it was tough, but 100% worth it.
Okay. I love you're describing what I think so much about earning something.
Yeah.
The only way I was an okay athlete. I ran track and cross country in high school. I was a nerd. So 4 years, I don't win any races. And there I am, my last race of my senior year.
Yeah.
800 meters. I hate that race, but my coach, for whatever reason, made me do it.
Yeah.
And he took out like the two fastest guys because they were going to run a different event or whatever. And I'm standing at the line and I'm looking around and I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are.
Right.
So we start running, the pace gets set, and about a quarter way through, I say to myself, I can win this. So I go and set the pace. And then I have my little surge at the end and I win. In that feeling of crossing the finish line after 4 years of showing up, 3 seasons, to finally get one win. But it's like it builds your confidence to be able to take on bigger things. And I think that's
100%.
what's so important, Todd, about that earn it mentality. So your year getting crushed by some of the greatest athletes on the planet. By the way, what is getting tackled by a huge 6'4" linebacker who runs a 4.5?
Well, I mean,
40? What does it feel like?
To be fair, they did not give me the ball a lot. I was like 6'3", 265. I was a lot of blocking. I wasn't the most. It was also, you know, our running back is like Le'Veon Bell, so it's like we can give Todd the ball or we can give Le'Veon the ball, and it's like, well, you know,
the way he moved,
we don't think we want to give Todd the ball. So, I mean, I never had any horrible tackles, and I was big, so usually I got the better end of things. But man, if people went low, that was when things were not fun.
Ooh, you worry about your knees and your shins, and
you just get rocked. But you can't really, you can't protect yourself. I also wasn't that comfortable running the ball because that wasn't really my thing. So, you know, these other guys are pretty shifty and they can protect themselves. But a couple times I would get rocked, mostly in practice. But it wasn't the worst. But
take me from the practice field to the game fields.
Yeah.
Because obviously there is a difference. Now, MSU has a huge stadium.
Yeah.
Tons of people come and watch. So when you step out on the field and you know you've been practicing, you know you've been working, and it's game day, how does that switch happen to you to go into full-time performance mode? So when you're going out and blocking, you just know, like, you're just going to attack and you're going to try to win every play.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so it's funny is I think when you're prepared, I think the biggest changes between practice and the game is honestly the things surrounding the game. You know, the warm-ups, the running out on the field, like all that stuff is incredible. But when the game starts, you almost feel like tunnel vision and everything kind of dissipates. We would practice with crowd noise, and we would mimic as much of the stadium atmosphere as we could. So it really did. You were so laser focused on your assignment that it kind of felt like you were in a tunnel and no one else was there, which for better or for worse, it was probably a good thing. But it was surprising, I think, just because you know exactly what you're trying to do and you're so intently focused, and you have to be in order to hear and everything involved. But the speed is incredibly different. But I don't think people realize, it's like any sport. We're friends with a guy who is a NASCAR driver, and he was telling me about what goes into that. And it's with any profession, you don't understand like the level of detail that goes into being great at anything. And so I don't think people realize how much film, how many walkthroughs, how many different scenarios you run through in practice. I mean, you're prepared for literally anything that happens in the game. So by the time the game comes, it's more about just, okay, this is the plan. You have to execute it at full force, but you know exactly what you're going to do. And that was kind of the difference is, especially when I switched to fullback, I felt like the position of fullback is like the tip of the spear. And I felt like, I had to set the tone for my team and my teammates. And I almost felt like, I was the first line defense. So I would convince myself, I'd tell myself these stories that almost like I was the only child. So like, these are my brothers, right? And I would do anything for them. And in a way, people are kind of trying to attack and hurt your brothers, right? And there is a physical pain aspect of football, which I think elevates the mentality. And so I was willing to do anything. I would throw my body in there. I felt invincible. And the mindset was literally, I'm going to do anything for my brothers. I'm going to throw it in there. I don't care if I get hurt. I don't think I'm going to get hurt. I've worked this hard to get myself to this size and strength. And, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And there was never a thought of protecting yourself. There was never a thought of, taking a play off, because you'd do anything for those guys. And it's rare. I mean, honestly, not many people ever experience in their life. And I think that's why football is pretty special.
Interesting. How do you develop that mindset, Todd? Because it seems to me that, like practice, is a day-to-day thing. Because I see all the stuff on Instagram about mindset and, just do this, just do that, which is fine. But to me, in changing my depressed mindset that I used to have for most of my life, it took like every day.
Yeah.
A negative thought would come in and I'd have to wrestle with it. Same thing on the football field?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of mindset and motivation comes from feeling purpose, right? If you have a distinct purpose in life, it's very easy to get yourself up and get yourself ready to do whatever it takes to succeed. Because in football, so many people care about it. You have the fans, university, the people that play there before you. You have like an extreme responsibility to other people because they're passionate, they care. So the purpose is high. Like it's very hard to find a similar situation where people are so interested in what you're doing. And then beyond that, like you go through so much with your teammates, like mornings and injuries and ups and downs, and you just go through hell and back with them. So when you go through that together and you talk about doing your job and protecting your teammates and then also representing a university, it's so purposeful that, like I said, I think the mindset is a result of the environment and not the other way around. Like I actually don't think I developed that mindset intentionally. I think I had such purpose and I was so excited and I cared so much about the people around me that was the mindset was the result. I had to be that way in order to achieve what I was trying to achieve and to protect my teammates and set the tone and, live up to the responsibility of the university. So
how does that set the stage for you today? And ToddAnderson42.com, if you want to read more about Todd, he's also on Instagram. So you build this mindset. You don't stop at the college level. You don't stop at MSU. You make it to the pros. You play for the Rams. Here you are today coaching other people to be the best that they can be. So how does that mindset go from that point tied into purpose, carry over to today through the NFL?
I think that, it's a blessing and a curse. I think that after I stopped playing, like I said, there was such an immense purpose when I was playing that it was hard to find that again. And, you try different things, you experience different things in life, but I think that's why a lot of athletes struggle afterwards, is because it's very difficult to find that purpose. And, I shifted that to helping other people and really, helping people feel as good as they possibly can and perform as good as they possibly can, because where that all stems from is relationships. I'm a super relationship oriented guy. Like, I would consider myself, like, I would do anything for the people I care about, literally anything. So that's really where that all stemmed from. And so, once I started learning about human performance and optimizing your brain, and then, mental health, sleep kept popping up more and more. And then I realized, if you really want to help people cultivate relationships, make people the best versions of themselves, allow them to lead others and pour themselves into others, that's why sleep is so prevalent and so important in my life. And why I share that knowledge is because without it, people are never going to be able to connect at the level that I think I was able to, or I think some of, sport or different situations are able to cultivate. And, it's much deeper than just like helping people perform. I think it really, everything in my life stems from relationships and caring about people and trying to allow people to do that in the most efficient way.
So there's a loyalty to you.
Yeah. Right? I mean, loyalty is, if there's any trait that's important to me, it is probably loyalty to a fault, right? Sometimes it's like, what's the movie? The Town with Ben Affleck.
Of course I do. I'm from Boston.
You're a Boston guy. Boston. My partners in Dream are from Boston.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, loyalty is a big thing. But there's that scene in the movie when he's like, I can't. What's he say? He's like, you can't ask any questions, but we're gonna hurt some people. And he's like, which car are we taking? Yeah. Like that's what I'm looking for when it comes down to. And that's how it is as a teammate. That's what's wild about football is I walked into Michigan State. My high school, we literally had one black kid in my entire high school, right? Just culture shock. But after you go through this stuff, you could not come from different backgrounds and you'd do anything for a guy. You'd do anything for a guy that you maybe had just met that year. Mm-hmm. But when you go through those things together, nothing can break that bond.
Forged in the fire.
Definitely, 100%.
So I want to go back in time because I saw a picture on your Instagram.
Yeah.
And I want you to describe the picture. But it seemed like a really big moment for you early in life because you lost a cousin who was 10 years old to leukemia.
Yeah.
So having something that profound happen to you, that sense of loss, what does that do? What did it do to you, Todd? And how did that help you move forward?
That's a great question. And I actually, it was a huge moment in my life, but I haven't reflected on it that much because I think I was young. I was 16 when it happened. But yeah, so my cousin battled leukemia. He relapsed 3 times, passed away, and I didn't have any brother or sister, so he was probably the closest thing I had to a brother. And it was pretty horrible to watch, but yet looking back, so inspiring because he was the most positive. He was going through horrible treatments, chemo, bone marrow transplants. He lived in Mott's Children's Hospital for, I don't know, 4 years, maybe more. And so when he passed away, like the week before, it was the last time he was ever outside. And he was, on a hospital bed getting wheeled through this quad at the hospital. And my aunt took a picture on this, disposable camera, like where you used to wind up and just snap a shot on film. And the picture, it literally looks like, rays of, an angel coming down. Like it looks like a person and, all this light is basically hovering around this bed. And, it looks like it's photoshopped and it didn't even look like that when she took it. She just snapped it because, it was the last time he was probably going to be moved around the hospital. And, he passed away, and after that, they developed the film, and it was this incredible picture. And she, I said this, she submitted it at our county fair and actually won an award in the special effects division. And special effects was meant for like computer editing, and like that's how insane the picture was. It actually won in an edited division, and she entered in the wrong thing, and it wasn't even edited. That's just how the film came out. So I think at a young age, it definitely did prompt my interest in, I've always been a nerd about health, wellness, just the human body and researching and on my own and just learning. And I think a little bit that was prompted from fear too. I didn't understand it. I remember when he was diagnosed, I was young and everyone, he just had the flu a lot, and he just didn't understand.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to learn as much as I could, but I think it did make me realize that, life is very fragile. And, as corny as it is to say, like, to appreciate each day, I think in that moment, like, very quickly I realized that, you take your health for granted. Like, one of my good friends, Jesse Itzler, he always talks about, if you had $10 billion, right, you have all the money in the world, but you have a sore throat, right? You just hurt till you keep coughing. It doesn't matter. The money doesn't matter. All you can think about is that sore throat. And I think that, the experience with my cousin, like, health and wellness really became more than just how you feel and look and how strong you are, what your bench press is. I think I probably thought about longevity much, much early because of it. And I think that's probably why I'm very interested in it now. And why I've always had like a more of a long-term thinking approach with like the health and wellness area. So I'm assuming that's what happened, but I really haven't done a deep dive on that. I'm sure it actually has more impacts than I realize.
Great. We're forcing them to uncover things right here on the Earn It All podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thanks for going there with us, because I do think that there are moments in all of our lives, right? Each of us have a different experience, but in those moments, subconsciously, they mean so much to us.
Yeah.
And they kind of help us find our purpose.
Yeah.
And that's when I saw that picture and I saw what you do now and your path to get to where you're at now with Dream Recovery, your sleep optimization company.
Yep.
You coach swimmers with your wife, Katie, which I want to talk to you about here in just a few moments. And you also Ride Out Now, the marathon training program.
Boston guy.
Yeah,
he's a big Boston guy.
And that was really cool. So these are all interesting things that are different approaches than the current. And when I saw your picture, I just wondered how this all tied together, because, as an outsider, just getting to know you, that's what I saw, and that's some kind of a spark.
Yeah.
Because, I had a spark when a couple people commented on this voice that I was gifted. Like, wow,
I was going to say, like, when you were doing the intro, I was like, wow. I was like, I wish I sounded like that. How do I do that? But yeah, it's impressive.
Well, but that's what it was, like these moments where people just said, you have a really great voice. Essentially, you should use it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Little moments, not as profound, right, as yours, but these little things that almost, I don't know if they're divine or whatever, they just kind of point you in a direction, whether you're aware of it or not. And then all of a sudden you're me at 45 and you're like, wow, I actually did that thing that 2 random people said to me at 14.
Yeah.
So I think that's really kind of an interesting part of life.
I definitely believe everything happens for a reason. I think there's been so many things in my life that by chance have happened. It just couldn't be by chance. I think that, you're presented certain opportunities for reasons. I think things fall into place and certain people come into your life, but you also have to take advantage of those things, like you said, and earn it. Mm-hmm. But, there's just been too many special things to happen just by circumstance for me.
So special. Katie Hoff, now Katie Hoff Anderson.
Yep.
Not just an Olympic swimmer, not just a medalist, but also a world record holder in the 400 individual meter. So profound moments in life. You meet Katie.
Yeah.
I just want to know, though, do you guys do like competitive games of Monopoly? Because you're both like high performing athletes. Like, what do you guys compete with each other on?
Board games aren't great. We're running the New York City half marathon next month, and it's a full-on competition. Like some people, I think different relationships have different, vibes. Like there's different ways to show love, right? Like some of our best friends, Missy Franklin and Hayes Johnson.
She's also has a podcast with Missy.
Yes, yep. They're very encouraging and loving and their dynamic is just very different. And they have an amazing relationship, and I learn a lot from them, and they're amazing people. Me and Katie, we're brutally honest with each other, I would say, and like if we're competitive, and like we're actively rooting against each other. Like there's not like literally like I texted her. I did like a pretty fast run the other day, and I texted her a screenshot and of my pace and the run, and most people might be like, great job, and she was like, cool, why are you sending this to me?
You're going down.
Yeah, because she knows. So but it's fun, because the other thing that's cool is like if she gives me a compliment or I give her a compliment, or if I say this wasn't great, we'll tell each other if something wasn't good or was good. And so I think feedback is extremely powerful. But if you have someone that's just constantly telling you good news, it's not really useful, and you just don't believe it. So, if I'm ever out of line, she'll be the first one to tell me.
And which is, I think, what you need in a partner, because my wife,
100%.
Amy, is the same way.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't come across the best way, or I don't receive it the best way, but
Never.
I'd rather have it than not, right? I'd rather have that push, that competitiveness, because she sees sometimes what I don't see, right? A better version of myself.
100%. Yeah, I would not be nearly the place I am without Katie. I mean, she, beyond just believing in me, and I think telling me what I was capable of, because I always have doubted myself, and I think that's pretty natural for people. But I think that there's a lot to unpack there. I think I was not in the best shape as a kid, and I was kind of the underdog growing up. I had this friend named Lucas, and my mom will tell this, but he was I'm not kidding you, he's probably the best middle school athlete ever. He was ridiculous, and I was always trying to just catch up so hard. I was always I took second pump, pass, and kick every single year to him, except one year he got his appendix taken out, and I was like,
this is my year.
Yeah, and that was it. So that's my claim to fame. And but it was, looking back, it was great, because that mindset just stuck, and I felt like I had this chip on my shoulder, and I had it was almost it felt like being a walk-on my entire life, because I had to do everything. He was way taller than me, in better shape, and I had to work so hard just to compete and get that level. Well, eventually, like I said, you stack up those wins, and your pace starts to increase, and you exceed some people that maybe didn't have to earn it as much. So it's one of the best things that happened. But yeah, there's definitely been a chip on my shoulder the entire way.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, your wife, Katie, performed in her first Olympics at 15. And I was just thinking about, where was I at 15? I was a sophomore or a junior in high school, running slowly around a cross-country meet. And she's competing against the best people in the world.
Oh, it's crazy. Well, it's crazy. It's I'm trying to I'm 15. I'm am I going to be able to get someone to dance with me at the dance? Exactly. Is there going to be a homecoming party? And she's on the Today Show. And I'm I can't even wrap my head around the mindset of that. But she's also the type of person that's so laser focused. It's ignorance is bliss, where she's I'm doing this thing. She doesn't even realize that things are a big deal, because she was only focused on the goal in swimming. We'll be pulling out boxes. There's a hat from Oprah, and I'm what is it? She's I was on Oprah, and I was it's good that you don't realize that these are big deals, because if you did, it probably would have thrown you off at that age. But she didn't. It was my only intention is to win and set records and be the best. And so everything else is just noise, and it kind of gets faded out.
So she has, if I remember correctly, 3 Olympic medals.
Yep.
In a whole bunch of world championship medals, including was it 7 golds or something like that? Where are they now? Where do you guys keep the medals?
I mean, she's left them in hotel rooms. I mean, it's wild stuff. Funny, yeah. It's an interesting dynamic, because she was tabbed as the female Michael Phelps for 2008 Olympics, and for a long time she hated her medals. She was supposed to win 5 gold medals. She won 3, didn't win gold. Still bothers her to this day. And
hence why you have competitive board games.
Yeah, definitely. And she's had to work through that. It's been a hard process, but there's a lot there. And I think that, when you're at that elite of a level and you have that mindset, anything other than winning and completing that journey isn't really an option. And that's the way you have to think. You can't even think about what if I don't succeed? What if I don't get first? Because once that enters the chat, the entire perspective changes. So that's what makes you great. And so, when things don't work out the way they're supposed to, sometimes it's very difficult to get over. And the other thing is I think that as an athlete, as high as the highs are as low as the lows will go. So when the highs are really high, you almost have to be ready for the lows to be low, because your baseline, you have your baseline, right? So when someone has something relatively good happen, let's say someone, gets their first job, right? Mm-hmm. That's a high, and it goes up. but then their baseline is raised a little bit. And, the idea in life, I think a lot of people, the goal is you have these great things happen better and better as you go. You start a family, you get married, you get better and better jobs, you earn more money. And that's like a nice gradient, and your perspective doesn't get, shifted immensely. Well, I think when you have huge success at an early age, and I think that's why a lot of athletes struggle with it, is you have massive spikes. You're on a world stage, one of the most sought after accolades you could ever have. You financially, you're making a ton of money. That perspective and that bar, your baseline, just jumps up through the roof. And then what happens is that baseline doesn't move, and then people leave their sport, and all of a sudden, like, those small wins that people usually have, like your first job or, a relationship or getting your first house, little things like that, compared to what they've been through, don't feel quite the same. And I think that, setting that expectation with athletes early on is powerful and should be talked about. And it is being talked about more and more, but it's also one of those things that's really, you can tell somebody this is going to happen, but until you really go through it, I don't know if there's a lot you can do to prepare. Just know it's going to happen, and also just know that there's resources and that you're gonna get through it, but it's going to be there. Like, almost, don't brace for it, but just be aware.
So how do you, Todd, and maybe you've talked to Katie about this, I'm sure, how do you guys as high performers manage that doubt? Because no matter how good you get or how well you manage your mind, at least for me, there always needs to be one little needle that sneaks through, and I'm riding this high, and I'm like, I feel good. And it's like, you suck. Where did that come from?
Yeah.
So I have my techniques where I kind of work with that, and I work it out, and I can move on from it pretty quick. But that took me 6 or 7 years of work to be able to do that. And that's all, like you talked about, Todd, that internal work. So when you are a high-performing athlete, you're in the NFL, your wife, Katie, is performing in the Olympics.
Yeah.
How do you guys, what could you tell us about managing doubt so that if doubt creeps in our lives when we're not in the pool or we're not getting crushed by Indomitian Sioux or something like that, what advice would you have on dealing with doubt from you guys' perspective?
I think that's how me and Katie are very similar. Like, if you were to talk to us, we are very different. But in that sense, we're very similar in that in sport, and I think it's a little different outside of sport in the regular world. But I think in sport, we would just try to come up with the biggest body of work, put in the most possible work at the highest intensity, and do everything you could in your power to be successful. Because then when you're standing up at the blocks or pre-game and you look across at the people on the other side of the ball, like, I did everything I could, and they probably didn't, and most of those guys didn't. And even if they did, you don't really know. So as long as you know that you did everything you could, like, you can convince yourself that they didn't put the work in that I did, and that gave me strength. I think that because, the weight room the weight room was always like my kind of sanctuary. I didn't miss a day of lifting ever, probably from 9.
You can see that.
Yeah. Well, now I'm just running all the time. But
are you doing the Ride Now program that you created? Mr. Ride Now?
Well, I'm on a different plan. We're doing rim to rim to rim end of March, so that's 46 miles in the Grand Canyon, 11,000 feet of elevation. Brutal. So it's more distance, and there's lunging, and it's going to be a knockdown, drag out.
You should have him come right back on the podcast as soon as he's done.
Maybe a couple days after.
Yeah.
But so I think that just the weight room was always like my sanctuary, and that gave me great confidence. Like, even though squat and bench press, like, it doesn't directly translate to football. If I could be the strongest guy on the team, which I was, that just gave me such confidence. And that's what I'd turn to. And Katie was kind of the same way. Well, where she had like her pull-ups and, her paces in practice, and like just hitting certain benchmarks gave her confidence in the meet. Everybody, that's one thing I think with young athletes, like, people don't realize every single human has self-doubt before the game, the competition. I don't care if you're Tom Brady, Ray Lewis, like, everyone is sitting there thinking, like, how good is the other team? How good are the opponents? Like, can I win this? It's just, what did you do? Like, what work did you put in, and what gives you the confidence to overcome that? Like, but I think some athletes think that, like, they're weird or something's wrong because they have that doubt, and that's not the case at all. I think every single person doubts themselves. I think every single person doubts themselves when they're doing something that they care about. We have a quote by our sauna that says, "The pressure is good for you," and it's because I think that it's a gift to do something that you care enough about to feel pressure. Like just when you have anxiety and pressure, that just means you care enough and it's something important to you. And there's been times in my life that there wasn't that many things that were that important. There wasn't something that I really, really cared about and wanted to succeed in and, felt purpose. And it's cool when that happens. So I think right now there's a lot of trend in the mental health space, and anxiety is a trendy term, but anxiety in an acute, short-term setting is an amazing thing. It's a great tool, and it's something that should almost be embraced because that just means you care.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
And it's almost as if, Todd, that experience that you have could give you that extra surge. You can draw upon that when you need it. So if you knew the game was on the line and you had to make a block, and you knew you had to reach deep down, but you built the confidence through your reps in practice, showing up, hitting guys, getting hit. You're like, all right, now, how did you draw on that to be able to say, I'm going to win this play because my team, my boys need me to win this play?
Yeah, I think in the game I didn't draw on it as much. It's just fast tempo, but it's more about like your mindset pre-game kind of dictates the entire game and sets the tone. And oftentimes the game, you can kind of feel how a game's going to go within the first like 5 plays, I would say. Just the energy and, the way the other team's playing and the intensity and speed, everything. So I think it more set the tone, it set the foundation, and I had that confidence going in, and then the game just happened. It flowed for me. And vice versa. Like there was years when I was younger where I didn't have quite the, the confidence, and I just felt it didn't flow at all. It was like almost erratic, where I felt like couldn't get in the rhythm, and I was just like it almost felt like I had anxiety the entire game, almost more being afraid of messing up instead of like, oh, here we go, like here's an opportunity, I'm going to go blow this guy up. It was almost a fear-based mentality. But then when I really got my groove at fullback, it was like all right, like this is a challenge that I'm going to overcome.
Nice. Yeah. Well, it's like taking it back to the gym, right? So we here at Earn It All, we know that fitness and nutrition are the base of how you live your life.
Yep.
And it's not just being healthy, though. It's that healthy confidence that you build. So I'm never been in a gym other than here or there. I was more a group workout kind of guy, a runner.
Yep.
So I loved cardio. But our head coach, Adam Nail, was like, dude, I'm going to get you in the gym because I wanted to get stronger. I threw out my back. I was lifting something to the house super light. And I'm like, obviously, I need to work on my strength.
Yep.
So started going to the gym. First time I put weight on a barbell to do a squat. I'm like, oh, my God, this is
You're probably
crazy.
So sore after that.
Oh, yeah. But I did it. And even though I was sore, Todd, I was like, wow, okay, I can do this. So I added 10 extra pounds the next time, and then 5 extra pounds. And it's just that incremental building block to how to live life, where when you build your capability, you have a different mindset where you go, I can pretty much accomplish what I want so long as I'm disciplined and do it. You feel the same way?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I was talking to Nick Bear about this, and we kind of had opposite come-ups where he was very insecure about like his business savvy and his ability to like start a company, but he was very fit, and like he was like very confident in himself, and he obviously was very strong, and I kind of felt the opposite, where I was always a little insecure about my fitness and how I looked, which is like it's surface level, but it plays such a huge role in your confidence, right? Mm-hmm. And on the business side, I felt like I could probably do something like this, but I just didn't have the confidence to put myself out there and be the one actually doing it. So, I would help other people and, convince myself of stories of why I didn't want to go after it. But once I after football, I wasn't in great shape. I had, with motivation, it was tough. But once I got myself in really good shape and I felt confident, like you said, like you built that confidence and your strength and, your ability to push yourself and just really stick to things and stack those wins, I couldn't have done what I've done in business and all the other things in my life, speaking, all this stuff, without the confidence that came from the building blocks of my fitness and health. Like when that didn't reflect what I valued as a person, it was hard to be confident about anything. So I think like attacking whatever is holding you back or makes you feel like you're not confident first, it could be a business thing, education, it could be, it could be aesthetic, it could be you feeling confident in your own skin, whatever it may be. I think that insecurity is going to hold you back in whatever you're trying to do, even if it doesn't relate to the goal that you're going after. So I think people oftentimes, whatever you're nervous about, you don't feel great about, like attacking that, overcoming it, and then whatever else you're trying to do in your life is going to fall into place because, like you said, that confidence is going to be where it's never been before.
Oh, I love it. It's attack versus avoid.
100, yes, but that's not easy to do.
No, it's very easy to avoid.
Because especially if anyone's ever been out of shape, like really out of shape. I mean, I got to a point, I was like 296 pounds at, about 5 years after playing football. And we went, this whole business startup thing. And it was just, I wasn't eating good. I was having too many drinks and I gained a lot of weight. And I remember getting on the scale at the doctor's office, 296 pounds, which I was like, if I get to 300 pounds. And then the same day, this picture was posted on Facebook, and I just was not happy with how I looked. And I was like, this is a low. I texted Katie, like, this is like rock bottom. I have to get together. And I just went on this tear of like really like getting in shape. And I haven't really lost it since then. And that was about 6 years ago. But I think people don't realize, like, when someone's in a bad place, especially with their fitness and wellness and eating, nutrition, all that stuff, the idea of getting momentum going as far as working out, going to gym, eating healthy is such a massive, massive task. Like, it's almost an insurmountable obstacle. And I think when people have never been there, it's almost ignorant to think like, or to say things like, you just start moving, like just start working out. Like, you don't understand how it feels to be in that spot. It's nearly impossible. And I compare it to like a train, or like like an Amtrak train. Mm-hmm. And if that train is stopped, you could take a pencil and put it in front of the wheel and it will stop the train. But once the train gets moving, it can blow through a bus if it gets in the way, right? So that's how it feels when you get out of shape, you're not feeling good about yourself. If someone that hasn't been there, like, don't try to put yourself in their shoes. Don't try to be sympathetic. Empathy goes along, but being sympathetic and being like, you're going to be fine, just get moved. It is not that easy. And you got to think, like, nobody wants to be in that place. So one of my favorite things a psychologist told me one time is, even someone you see on the street, could be a homeless person or someone having a tough go, and it maybe isn't responding in a way you would want, but you have to think, if you were them, you would be doing the exact same thing. Like, so whatever they're experiencing, they're doing the best with whatever they think is right and whatever they're trying to do. Like, that thought process makes sense to them. So I think when you can put yourself in someone's shoes like that and think, okay, as much as I disagree with whatever this person is doing, could be horrible, they think that's the right thing. Like, based on what they've gone through, their past experiences, that's the correct move for them at this time. So how can I give them perspective or shift their perspective to understand, like, that's not the best path?
It's very monk-like.
Yeah,
right? Accept reality and really adapt to reality.
Yeah.
So you're a high-performance coach, Todd. So in those situations, how do you coach people to take that first step or that next step to be able to not be the train that's stuck on the track that can be stopped by a pencil, but the train that at least has some momentum?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a twofold approach. I think one is really understanding why things are important to you, far beyond, I want to lose weight, or I want to, break a record, or whatever it may be. Like, why do you want to do that? And really digging deep and finding, usually it's a very emotional trigger. There's something that's really either bothering them, there's an insecurity, there's something that they really care about, someone they really care about that they want to make proud. Who knows what it is, but really figuring out why they want to do something. That's almost like the fuel. And then the other thing is reducing what's blocking that train to the smallest object possible. I think oftentimes especially regarding sleep, when you talk about nutrition and working out, right? Those are you're talking about, that's the foundation. But why are we making those harder than they need to be? Those are hard things to do. Mm-hmm. Like eating consistently is very difficult. Also not that enjoyable, to be honest, right? So, like,
facts.
And working out is hard. Like, as much as people like to work out, it is hard, right? And there's times you don't want to do it. So when people like do things like cut into their sleep, I'm like, why are you making these obstacles harder than they need to be, right? Let's get some momentum. Then we can start to layer things on. So when you start with the foundation of sleep, which maximizes your ability to stabilize your mood, your motivation, basically makes you feel as good as you possibly can, get the ball rolling, and then layer these things on, as opposed to everybody wants to be like, okay, I'm going to get up early, cutting into my sleep, and I'm going to work out in the morning, and then I'm going to like totally overhaul my diet, and really let's go the opposite way. Let's get a sleep schedule going, right? You know, just by being underslept, you know, 8 hours compared to 5, on average, people are eating 360 to 70 more calories a day.
Really?
One night.
Well, you're up longer, right? So
well, that doesn't, but yeah, you are up longer, but even if they take that out, there's ways they can factor that out. It doesn't make a difference. It's just your hormone, you know, it basically resets your hunger hormones. And vice versa. When you add an hour of sleep on, you reduce your calories by about 250 calories a day. So it's like you're fighting your physiology. Foundation, start with your sleep, and it will make those foundational things like nutrition and your workouts even easier. And you actually look forward to them and actually embrace them, as opposed to dreading it. And like if you're fighting your body, fighting your physiology, you're gonna lose that. You're gonna lose that battle eventually over time. Like the motivation, the why, it can only hold on for so long. And some people are really good at it, and it'll last a while, but eventually, like, your body's gonna win.
So, as a high performance athlete, MSU, playing for the Rams, the NFL level, doing what you do now with sleep and your company, Dream Recovery, which helps us all sleep better. Where did you understand how important sleep is?
Yeah. So really, when it really took it to the next level, I got to spend time with Dr. Jennifer Martin. She's at UCLA, one of the top sleep psychologists, which is interesting because a sleep psychologist has a different approach than like a clinical sleep doc that's dealing with apnea and different clinical issues. It's about the mindset around it. But learn from her, and then when I started speaking on it and seeing what a massive impact it had on people's life, I was like, wow, this is different. This is an approach that no one's really taking. Because this was 5 or 6 years ago, which, you know, sleep was very seldom talked about, and it just helped people so much. And then that really took it to the next level. And I think that's why Dream's been so successful, is because we're such a mission-based company. The mission was there far before any of the products. Like, the products were an outcome of the mission. Like, it was this mission to help people feel as good as they possibly can, attain all these massive goals. It was trying to kill the culture of rise and grind. And I don't mean kill the culture by reducing the amount of work or the goals. It was really like, when you wake up and you had a great night's sleep and you also have purpose in what you're doing, it does not feel like a grind. If anyone's ever had extreme purpose where they're chasing down a goal that means more to them than anything, there isn't a thing you'd rather be doing than all the hard work. But when you don't feel good, you're not sleeping well, and you don't have purpose, things fall apart. So, you know, Dream was just a product of trying to kill the rise and grind mentality and culture. And the products came about because there wasn't anything that was preaching that. There wasn't the right tools or the quality of materials or, you know, the community that was allowing that. It wasn't a community that was really saying, like, this is the way of the future, and it's okay to think this way. It's okay to actually reverse engineer, like, performance, as opposed to, you know, more is better.
Yeah.
Better is better. More is not better.
For most of my career, I had to work mornings.
Right.
Radio
Same.
career.
Yep.
So I was waking up at one point at 2:30 in the morning for 5 years. So I never had good sleep.
I think that's what time my flight landed last night.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. So you know, maybe you didn't get your optimal sleep last
definitely
night.
not optimal right now.
But that's what I realized, how much harder it was to fight my own mind, like, as the week would drag on. So I'd maybe catch up over the weekend, and I know sleep is probably cumulative, but like Saturday, Sunday, I'd start to feel better, but I'd sleep too late. I couldn't fall asleep Sunday night. So my week would start off on like a 4 or 5 hour sleep Monday. Yep. By Wednesday, I'm battling the demons left and right.
Yeah.
So is that common? We're in this grind mentality, or this cell phone technological society where we're looking at our screens.
Yep.
Almost all of us are impacted some way with our sleep in a negative way, which is where you guys are coming in with Dream Recovery, is to try to, you know, close that gap, to understand that sleep is like the most important thing you do. Yeah,
it's one of the only things you can't really overcome. It's either making you better or worse. You know, coaches always talk about, you know, you're getting better, you're getting worse. Sleep is truly one of those things. It's adding to your life or it's taking away. It's increasing your ability to sustain chasing goals, relate to people, lead people, or it's like an anchor. It's pulling you down. So you have to think of it in that way. But Just by shifting your mean sleep time 1 hour less, like 1 hour earlier, your chances of depression go up 25%.
Wow.
Like, so from a mental health perspective, people really don't realize how much an impact has, or how much sleep has an impact. I mean, it really is more of a mental health reset than like physical recovery. And that's a big miss for people. And oftentimes, now it is, but in the mental health space, there's so much going on, and sleep should really be the first thing someone assesses. Sleep is also a symptom of every single psychiatric disorder.
Is it really?
And it's like one of the
the
chicken or the egg things. But if you really want to stabilize your mood and optimize your mental health, consistent sleep is the best thing you can do.
How will you, again, tapping into your coach? And I mean, we got one of the greatest coaches right here, Todd Anderson, so you might as well ask him some questions. How do you help us take that first step to get better sleep? Like, if we don't sleep well, if we're sleeping 5.5, 6 hours a night, or maybe we're getting 7 every once in a while, but it's not consistent, what would you advise us to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to give like a blanket, no pun intended, a blanket statement or a blanket tip, but it really, I think the mind, it's a mindset shift of small wins make a big difference, right? There's 10 minutes, 15 minutes here, there, even something as simple as, let's say you normally hit the snooze once, right? 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Let's just have you sleep right up until the time you have to wake up. That's 10 minutes of probably really deep quality sleep, because the sleeping right before you wake up is majority of REM sleep. That's kind of what resets your mental health. That's 10 minutes a day, right? That's an hour a week. That's 50 hours of really deep sleep a year that you're increasing just from not setting your snooze. So I think it's making people understand that it's not these massive overhauls. Like, do you want to get 8 hours of sleep a night? Absolutely. Do you have to get it tonight? No. It just what's a very small thing that's going to make a big change. And a lot of it has to do with the psychology around sleep. Just making it a priority and educating people on why it's important. A lot of times when I do like speeches, the reason people increase the quality of their life through sleep is because they learn about why sleep's important and it relates to them, and then they're bought in and they're focused and they're aware. Before, it's just a lack of awareness and education, right? So when you educate people, they tend to like they it's kind of like nutrition. A lot of people aren't overweight due to lack of knowledge, right? Like, there's a lot of information out there, and there's some stuff that's subjective or people can argue about, but in general, like, people know how to lose weight. They know what foods are healthy. Mm-hmm. That's not the thing holding them back. But with sleep, a lot of times it is an education issue where people don't understand what a big impact it has. Once you educate them, they buy in almost instantly. Yeah. And the other thing is, it's one of the few things, there are not many things that's enjoyable and you look forward to that's that good for you. You know what I mean? Like I said, working out or nutrition choices, difficult sleep, I can get on board with that. Yeah, so it's not the hardest thing to convince people to do. And once, they drop the stigma of like it being lazy or it being selfish, all of a sudden it's something they look forward to actually dedicating themselves to. And like I said, things start getting easier. Like people don't realize how much sleep has to do with the relationships. Like, when you're underslept, your facial expressions change. Your ability to actually perceive other people's facial expressions change. They've done studies on CEOs, and there's a direct correlation between the hours that a CEO gets, the hours of sleep a CEO gets, and the safety and trust felt by the entire organization in polls, which is crazy.
That is.
But it makes sense, because sleep just it allows you to have perspective. It allows you to react in the way you want to, communicate effectively, which is everything, right? So when you're able to communicate and relay what you're feeling and understand what other people are feeling, it's really easy to be a leader. When you're not consistent, people don't know what they're going to get from you. You're not authentic. It becomes very hard. And trust is the foundation of any team. So if people can't trust you because you're inconsistent, things are going to be tough as a leader.
That is so spot on, to think about my past leaders and who was effective and who was not. And now I wonder, maybe they weren't sleeping very well.
I mean, if you were just statistically, objectively, I would bet the better leaders were sleeping more than the ones that were poor.
It is a very
which is you wouldn't
essential
think,
thing.
you wouldn't
essential
think like
thing.
you
Yeah.
wouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to bet on that. But I mean, the data doesn't lie. These are big studies. There are a ton of CEOs, and there's a lot of studies. And also, your ability to trust drops significantly when you're underslept. So when you are underslept, you're much more skeptical of somebody. You don't actually, you're not as trusting. You're not as optimistic about what somebody is telling you.
So what do you guys at Dream Recovery, how do you help us sleep? I know you guys have various products. If you want to walk us through what some of those are and how they help us sleep so that our nerves aren't frayed, so that we can build trust in our teams.
So mouth tape is the thing that we sell the most of. And that has to do with your mindset. So, the opportunity there was a lot of mouth tape. I've been mouth taping for about 3 years. First night I did it, unbelievable impact on my sleep. I felt like I woke up like when you're a kid. You wake up when a kid, like you sleep amazing. I feel so good. And I was like, whoa, what happened? And so just the power of nasal breathing, like breathing through our nose. We're meant to breathe through our nose, eat through our mouth. And our nose is specifically designed for breathing. And oftentimes, for whatever reason, there's a lot of reasons. There's structural issues, there's psychological things, but just reminding ourselves to sleep with our mouth closed, it puts your body in the most relaxed, efficient state from a nervous system perspective, and people sleep much, much better. It also trains you to consistently breathe that way. So throughout the day, you're really minimizing the chronic stress on your body, and you're able to put energy elsewhere. So that's like our main thing. But the reason it came out is because a lot of the other companies, so we ship our adhesive is made in the U.S. It's medical grade, made for long-term burn victims. It's called Henkel as a company. It's world known to be like the safest, most well-tested adhesive. And then we use this bamboo silk as a material because it's on your face for 8 hours. And a lot of these other companies have like really sketchy, materials. And I was like, we need to make something that's like the best.
Not toxic to your skin.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, you need to be thoughtful about this stuff. And, that's kind of how we came up with it. But, the sleep mask also, we basically, we took these tools that are very simple, holistic tools, like a sleep mask, a pillowcase. And we did two things. We're like, how do we create a community of high achievers that are focused on sleep, like I said, because that's the way of the future. The higher you achieve in the bedroom, sleeping, only sleeping, the higher,
maybe both.
the higher you'll achieve in life for sure. So creating a community that really bought into that. And then the second thing is how do we basically take these holistic tools that are proven to work and maximize the quality, because, materials matter. We're learning more and more, organic materials, food quality makes a big difference. And I think slowly and surely it'll roll out, it might not just be food. It might be materials you're putting on your face, lotions, like where there's all these toxins and byproducts exist in far more than things we ingest or lotions. But, just how can we make the best, most holistic, natural products? And that's what we're trying to do. And so it's been amazing. Yeah.
So check out Dream Recovery. Todd, 3 quick questions. So we can do rapid fire before we let you get out of here.
All right.
Give me a good reason to hire a coach, because I've had tremendous success in my life hiring coaches in areas that I'm weak and I don't want to spend hours and hours and hours of researching. Yep. So you are a coach, high performance. You've had coaches your entire life. What are great reasons to hire a coach?
2 things are accountability, right? When you have a coach that cares about you and you care about them, there's nothing more powerful than being accountable to someone, especially if you don't want to let them down. It's awesome. And the second thing is perspective, right? A lot of times, we convince ourselves, we tell ourselves stories, we live in our own head all the time. So having a voice that gives you perspective and clarity and can weigh in on what you're doing. Like you said, a lot of times, hopefully your significant other shows you what you're capable of, but also a coach does that. And sometimes, significant other is in some ways a coach, and they're able to show you and believe in you and show you what the best version of yourself could be.
And you, Michigan State coach that you played for.
Coach D'Antonio.
Coach D'Antonio was one of those people for you.
Man. I mean, he treated every single person the exact same, and he saw the best in people. And, he was a true leader. I don't think he realizes how much impact he's had on people, because he just lived life the right way. And it wasn't anything, he did or said, or it was just the way he went about things. And when you're doing the right things consistently in a world that is very volatile and people are doing crazy things. Like when you're able to be consistent and stay true to who you are and your faith and your family, that's the way to go about things.
Character.
The highest.
Yes.
Highest. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. I said 3 questions, but that was a secondary side load.
Got it.
So what is one of the biggest, I guess I'll call it failures, but what did you learn from that you were able to apply? And I know I'm catching you off guard here and asking you to think on the fly, but for me, there are so many. So I just try to think of where I went too far, because like my professional life, I did pretty well in. My personal life had a completely different belief system where I wasn't good enough. So I was making all these decisions that were harmful to relationships, that went too far, where I eventually had to learn how important my belief system was and what's working beneath the surface, especially not sleeping very well.
Right.
So sleeping better allowed me to understand what was motivating me to make these horrible decisions and able to start correcting them.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying what was a failure that impacted me the most? Man, that is a tough question.
This is why I do this. Catch him on.
Honestly, when I was released from the NFL, as much as it was a failure, I think it forced me into this role. Katie was going through a really hard time because she got sick at Olympic trials. It forced me into this role that kind of it made me very selfless, which was a great timing for what I was going through. So I think as far as like the most impactful failure, I just had met her, I was released, and it actually made me like not really try to continue going down like the free agency, like that's a tough life. And, we ended up moving to Miami, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. In retrospect, it was at the time like horrible. I was like, this sucks, and whatever, but I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't go back and change it. And so I think that's probably the most impactful.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Let's go the opposite end of the spectrum for our final question. One of your biggest accomplishments that you're most proud of, and what did you learn from that?
Accomplishments that I'm most proud of. The Michigan State thing I always say, so that's hard. Honestly, this year with Dream, it's not as much an accomplishment, but I think that decision just to like really go after it and try something new and take a risk and lay it all out there. I've always wanted to start my own thing. I've always wanted to do something in the space, but you always make excuses for it. So not even like nothing outcome related, just the decision to do it and go after it. And it's exceeded my wildest expectations. So I would say that's probably like right now, like I'm just happy that I made that decision. And the people, I guess I keep going back to people, but some of the people and opportunities that have come because of it are life-changing, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
So let's go back to the very beginning, that feeling of earning something. How would you describe that to anyone that has a goal but doesn't quite know how to get there, but knows on a fundamental level it's a step-by-step process? So what is that feeling at the end of that step-by-step process? Like, what does that do to your body and your mind?
I think if I had to describe that feeling, it would be worth it. Like that, I would say it's worth it. And that sounds like cliche, but whatever that person's staring at probably feels like the most massive mountain. And to even imagine a feeling that would be worth overcoming that mountain is hard to wrap your head around, but it will be. Like it will absolutely be worth it. So when you get to the other side, as big as that mountain is, just know that feeling will be better, and look forward to that. And when you have a bad day, just know it'll be worth it.
Todd Anderson, ToddAnderson42.com. You can find him on Instagram. Katie Hoff Anderson, his wife. Collectively, they're just specimens. Todd, I appreciate you coming in and hanging out with us today and talking about the earn it mentality, the walk on mentality. And we can't wait to sleep a little bit better after this.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it.